Well, you're a hard man to get. What's that? Week 3, and we eventually got you on the pod.
I think it's been actually close to 4 weeks that we've been trying to get this to happen.
Third or fourth time lucky.
Pretty much.
I was thinking of what way to introduce you, and I was like, okay, ultra marathon runner, high level runner, mental health advocate, and then I was just like, why don't you just give us a bit of an introduction?
Well, I think there's all the different labels. So we've got runner, which originated with ultra marathons, which has now become more focused around marathons.
We are 2 weeks out.
5 plus 7, we're 13 days.
Oh, Gold Coast.
13 days from Gold Coast Marathon.
5th July, 6th of July.
7th.
Nice. How are we fixed for that?
I think we feel good. There's a confidence in my body, physically, and in my brain that I've not experienced before a race. So obviously anything can go wrong, but I think what's been good this time around is I'll get to the start line and have confidence that I've done everything that I could to get into a position to perform at optimal amount on that day. So I've reduced the variables at play.
Yeah, you can tell even by, you're putting graft in, and even through like social media, the training that you're doing, the content that you're putting out, like you can tell you're in a good place. You can tell there's good energy there and that you are confident. Whereas rewind to obviously the last marathon you done, Seoul, which month was that?
I ran one in Korea in April.
Okay, so yeah, I think even in the lead up to that, you could sense that even though you were confident, I feel like you're 10 times more confident for this one and in a much better place. And you can see obviously the progressions in your runs and stuff, that there has been a serious block of work done, and you obviously hit sub 3 in the last marathon, which is unbelievable. But yeah, gunning for, what's the goal? Don't like to say it on air, but we'll put it out there.
Put it everywhere. Under 250 would be good.
Nice.
Yeah, but the thing is that so I ran the marathon in Daegu, which is South Korea, but I hadn't done a specific marathon block for that race. So I'd been training all year, but racing 5Ks, trail races, 10K races, but nothing specific to a marathon. And I think I committed to the race 6 weeks prior. So I've only really trained for that race for, let's say, a month at best, which, like any marathon, that doesn't really count. So then when you get to the start line of the race, it's like, look, I feel pretty fit, but do I have the ability to run a really fast time? I was like, I think I can. I'm pretty sure I can, but there wasn't that level of confidence of putting in effectively 16 weeks, actually probably longer, closer to 6 months, but like 16 weeks of solid training, where completely different feeling in the brain, which then obviously should help on the race at least.
Yeah, I suppose it's completely different, the sort of structure that you're bringing this time. And like you said, it's obviously for peaking this week, whereas obviously when you were doing the last one, it was sort of a training run as such, but it was just in the middle of a block and there was no real, like, okay, 3, 4, 5 months out, this is what we're doing.
Yeah, it was pretty much like my girlfriend signed up to the race in January. I bought a ticket. I didn't think I could go. And then 6 weeks out, I booked a ticket and I went, all right, let's try and get marathon fit in 4 weeks.
And yeah, obviously you were able to hit a sub 3 there, which has been a goal for a while.
Yes.
So that was marathon number 4 or 5? Even more actually?
It's more, I don't know. It's probably about 6 officially.
Okay, because you done Gold Coast last year, Singapore.
I've done Singapore twice. I've done 3 or 4 in Asia.
Okay.
And then, Gold Coast. But it was only my second cold weather marathon.
Yeah,
so big
which
difference.
Makes a massive difference.
Yeah, big difference. Yeah.
Man, that's why I'm actually looking forward to going home, even though I haven't been doing as much running the past, say, 2 months because of obviously the injury. I'm looking forward to running in some not so humid temperature when I go back. But yeah, just for context there, what did you find the difference was when you were running in cold weather compared to here? Was heart rate way lower, effort levels? Yeah, what is the major differences there?
So I think the main point, there's 2 points. There's the aspect of you feel like you're sort of a step ahead because you've been training in the heat, then you come to the cold, so it's amplified the effects of what you think is possible on that day.
Yep.
But then the most important point is that for the same effort, you're at a lower heart rate. So if I'm running 4 minutes 15 per kilometre and I'm running at, let's say, 170 heart rate, when I'm going into the cold climate, I'm probably going to be running at about 160 or 165 or even less, maybe 140 to 155. So I'm getting a better output for less energy effectively. So, realistically, if I can hit a certain time in the heat, once I get to the cold, it should feel much easier. So instead of being in that 8 to 9 out of 10 range, I'm probably more like a low 8, if not a 7 out of 10 effort.
Nice. And then obviously you've got the hydration aspect of it as well, where if you are sweating buckets, then that's going to be another challenge, trying to get the electrolytes back in and making sure hydration is in a good place, which is obviously good for us training out here because it gives you that bit of, you are going through the mixer at times, and it then obviously, like you said, prepares you that bit more for when you do go to do the colder weather races, which is good. But now it seems like you're in a good spot for obviously coming up to Gold Coast. So yeah, we've put it out there. So it's just into a bit of a taper now for you. So your volume's obviously reducing, obviously coming up the race.
Yeah, so I mean, I like a 3-week taper. Some people like 2. I think 3's better. So last week I dropped from, I've been averaging 100 to 120 kilometres per week for the last 3 months. I reduced to 92 last week. I had a little flare up in my foot, so I took 2 full days off. And then this week I'll go down to about low 90s, if not 85 kilometres per week. I still run the same frequency, so I'm running 7 days a week. But the overall volume, intensity, everything just reduces. So it's nice.
Nice. Other than that, body's feeling good?
Feels amazing.
Good.
Like, I've been negating little injuries for the last 10 weeks, as you do when you're training for a marathon. So I've had like inflamed inside of my ankle running up to my shin. I've had a top of my foot issue, and we've just been managing it pretty much since pre-career, and it's just all started to disappear in the last, I suppose, 2 weeks, which is just nice. Just have that confidence that it's not inflamed, it's not stressed, and it's just not tired anymore, which is really, really useful.
That's because you're not spending as much time on me anymore. So the injuries are starting to clear up.
Yeah.
But obviously you're big into, like pretty similar to me, in that you are massive into your recovery, and yeah, you basically live your life like a professional athlete, and with the amount of training that you do, it probably is necessary. So talk to me a bit about some of the things that you place a massive emphasis on that lets you run over 100 k's per week and really push the intensity. And again, not just with the running, but yeah, you're obviously playing a bit of AFL as well, and from time to time there is games, there's tournaments at the weekends, and sometimes you're even doubling them up. Like, one thing that stood out to me, I think this was when I hadn't even known you for that long, but we obviously played a tournament in Batam, so I think we played 3 or 4 games, and then you went to Singapore the next morning and ran the Singapore Marathon. Yeah. I think after that tournament, Jesus, I was struggling to walk about after playing 3 or 4 or 5 games or whatever it was in that heat, and high intensity games as well. And then you went and ran the marathons. How do you get through it?
I mean, it's evolved over time. So 4 years ago, I got injured, and I had shin splints. I had lots of inflammation and lack of consistency. Whereas since that last shin splints, I think it was 2021, I haven't been injured again since. And touch wood, but I'm confident in it. The main reasons I feel, I prioritise sleep. I sleep pretty good. I'm very consistent with it. So even if I don't sleep 8 hours a night, I'm still at a consistent window of when I go to sleep and when I wake up. And that just happens every single day. And even when I'm not training, I still wake up around that 5 to 5:30 in the morning, just because that's my window. And I go to bed usually between 8 to 9:30 every single night.
Yeah, you're pretty dialed in with that stuff. Like, I know anytime we've been away, like, I'm anal enough as it is about my sleep, and I would be pretty rigid, but yeah, I suppose you place an even more of an emphasis on it, and you are pretty regimented with, oh, it's 9 o'clock, I'm going to bed, or it's 9:30, and
Yeah.
which obviously, like, you're waking up 4:30, 4 a.m. sometimes
Mhm.
to obviously get running, because obviously the heat out here means that when you are pushing them distances, you have to go running early, otherwise you're cooked.
Yeah, and then I suppose you put that with the food and the hydration. So I don't really watch what I eat, but I just eat enough good things and enough volume. So there's got to be a lot of energy source to be able to train, anywhere from 2 to 3 hours per day. Sometimes more, sometimes less, but it's probably a median around 14 to 17 hours per week. So there's got to be enough food to fuel not only for today, but for tomorrow. I don't want to wake up feeling hungry. I'll eat before I run in the morning. I'll eat after I run in the morning. I'll eat all through the day. I'm always trying to hydrate, water, electrolytes, anything that I can put in my system, because if I fall behind today, I'm not going to be able to perform tomorrow. And I'm always prepping myself for the next day, the next day, and the next day, because if I fall short of one of them, then it puts me back on tomorrow or the next day or the next day. And like if I maintain the food and the sleep, all the little biohacks and all that stuff, then they're useful. But if I don't do the food and the sleep, the biohacks are useless.
Yeah, I feel like it's the key, isn't it? Food and sleep and hydration, obviously, but people are looking into recovery tights, compression garments, massage guns, which have their place, and even like the recovery boots and things like that. I know you've used them in the past, but again, they're very small percentages, but obviously sleep and food are the key, and that has made a massive difference for you. But let's rewind. So obviously we first met each other probably 2 years ago when I first came to Bali, and then I obviously came to the Ballygeckos, which is the NFL team here. And I don't think we really spoke for the first few weeks. I think you were pretty reserved, and so was I. And then I think I marked you one night in training, and I was like, fuck, this boy's a whippet. And then obviously getting to know you, and then you were obviously starting to really ramp up the running at that time. And I'd seen that you had been, obviously you had the Lapathon coming up, I think, at that time. And we'll talk a bit more about that later and what that is all about. But let's rewind to your younger days when AFL and football was the main thing, and then obviously things changed and a lot of things happened in your life for you to then again go the opposite direction. And now, yeah, let's just rewind back then, so to give people a bit of an introduction. Like, a lot of people will know who will be listening to this, but yeah, obviously there was times in your life when you went through a bit of a dark place, and yeah, just a bit of a sort of timeline on that, and then we can go into a bit more depth on how we made then the transition to running.
Yeah, so the short version is football was my life, Australian football, and it was my dream to play professionally. As most kids growing up in Australia, it's quite a common aspiration, and luckily enough I was reasonably good at it, so there was a possibility that that could happen. We never know, but that was the path that I was moving towards, and that was what I was hoping to achieve.
Just when we spoke about that actually a couple of weeks ago, like some of your friends who you played with many years ago and who you were probably better than at that time are now playing professional and have contracts with some of the big AFL clubs.
Yeah, so there's a lot of friends that I'm really stoked for and proud of, and they're all playing AFL or high level football through different, whether it's in West Australia or on the East Coast. But there were a lot of people that I was around that progressed to what I was hoping to achieve. And when I was about 14 or 15 years old, I tried methamphetamine for the first time. So I was a kid who was experimenting with substances, but wasn't fully aware of what I was doing. So that's 11 years ago. So that's 2013. So there's not many people, there's not much marketing of it on the TV. It wasn't public knowledge. Don't do this, don't do that. And so I stepped into using what I now know as methamphetamine, but I didn't really know what it was. And I used it for the first time, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. But I had no idea that what I was doing was possibly going to destroy my life and really harm those around me. And what I found with it was that when I used it, almost instantaneously, I wanted to continue to use it. And so within the space of like a few months, it gone from something that I'd done a couple of times to pretty much every single day as like let's say I'm 15 years old. So I should be school, study, sport. That's kind of like what you're meant to do when you're 15. And I'm doing drugs. And very, very quickly it just progressed to that was all I did. So school went out the window, football went out the window, cricket went out the window, anything that was positive in my life went out the window, and my sole focus was the substances. And it warped how I looked at everything, because I had all these opportunities right here. Yeah, I just threw them all away and was like, nah, like this is what I want to do. Like this is my calling. And it just progressed really, really fast. So between the ages of 15 to just before I turned 18, I went through multiple police raids. I should have been put in jail for a reasonable amount of time. Lots of my friends have ended up incarcerated or just continuing to, live that lifestyle. And luckily enough for myself, I managed to not really pull myself out, but be given like a hand to pull me out when I was 17, so just before I turned 18. So by this stage, I've been doing substances 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for multiple years, and I'm not well. I'm like 59 kilos, 6 foot. I haven't played sport in years. I'm in and out of psychosis, so I've lost touch with reality. I've lost touch with my family, lost touch with my friends, lost touch with everything, and it's a pretty dark and gloomy place of no hope. And from there, being able to be pulled out, I had to make the decision, but then my family helped facilitate the change of throwing me into a rehab facility to just snap the cycle and sort of give me a kick up the arse to like do some better.
And that was in Australia?
No, that was in Indonesia. So
Okay.
I had a lot of issues that it seemed like a good idea that I was out of the country for a while, and it just felt that it would be safer for myself and for my family that if I went and got some help outside the country. Okay. And the easiest place to find was to put me on a plane and put me into a rehab facility in Bali, just because financially it was feasible, but also it's just easier to fly from Perth to Indonesia than it is from Perth to Melbourne. And also just being out of the country gave that extra level of security.
Yeah, and different environment, probably being restricted from certain people, and again environments that might have then pushed you the opposite directions, instead of going down the rehab and committing to that, then potentially falling back into old habits and traps and socialising with people that you shouldn't be with.
Yeah, and if you're in a rehab, let's say in the city that you live in, you can just walk out the front door and get an Uber home. Or if you're in a rehab on the other side of the country, it's pretty simple just to walk out and jump on a plane home. Whereas if you're outside the actual country, it's a bit of a process. So there's like a firewall protection that I'm not running out and then running home.
Yeah, and yeah, obviously then things change for the better. And how long were you in that facility for?
Yeah, so I was in there for 6 months. So the first 3 months you live in there 24/7 and you just do everything that's on the schedule. So you've got a schedule from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep. And it's really good because it creates some structure and some routine and some consistency. Like you eat breakfast, lunch and dinner at the same time. You go to bed at the same time. You wake up at the same time. You do groups at the same time and you learn at the same time. So you just get drilled consistency and structure because it's really important. It's what you need and you thrive in it. And so I did that for 3 months, and then I spent 3 months in what we call like a halfway house or a sober living house. So I was living external to the property, but would come into the facility for 4 to 6 hours a day. So it sort of like reintegrates you back into the outside. So you have your own freedom, your own responsibilities. You have to take care of yourself, but you've also got the sanctuary of visiting and a safe space to visit each day for as long as you need. And so I did that for 6 months in total. Then the following 3 months I was living on my own outside the full care of the facility, but I still chose to just volunteer pretty much every day.
Nice.
Because it just created, not safety, but it was what I knew. So I kept doing it. It was working, I felt better, so I just decided that I'd just do it for another 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And like when you look at where you're at now, and a big part of what you do is obviously you have Shuffle and Strides, you and Nick, which is a mental health charity organisation focused on promoting mental health in Indonesia. Mm-hmm. And you have the Run Club with that, and you're doing some amazing work trying to raise awareness and trying to put that bit more information out there, because as you and a lot of people will know, and a lot of people will be unaware, the way mental health is looked at in Indonesia and probably in Asia in general, and the lack of information around it and the stigma and everything else is a problem. So obviously you are doing work to try and change that,
yeah,
which is great. And that started off in the form of the Run Club first, and that was a big driver of it, was it?
Not really. So, sort of, kind of. In 2020, I ran from north to south of Bali, and I raised money for food distribution. So, peak COVID, I raised like $25,000, and we fed about 200,000 people with that money, who lost their job during COVID. And then I was like, wow, like this is fun. And like being able to give back, but also like do things that were fun. So then Nick and I were like, well, let's just walk around Bali and we'll raise money for mental health. And then we looked into mental health charities, and we found none that were to the, I suppose, level of care and standard that we would want to raise $500,000 for. So then we thought, let's just start our own. And so then we started our own, not knowing what that meant, which then we wanted to obviously connect the exercise and the mental health. So it was sort of the launching pad to start the charity, was let's make a group where people can walk, they can run, or they can just hang out and do some exercise. So it's sort of all tied in together with this big vision of mental health charity, but then also exercise, because if you're just using the medical model, which is brilliant, counseling's phenomenal, psychology's phenomenal, psychiatry's phenomenal, but we also need to connect some exercise, some connection, some friends, some fun. You know, like we want to make not mental health fun because it is a serious subject, but we want to make it more relatable. So it's not just this doom and gloom thing all the time.
So obviously coming towards the end, and your transition from, obviously the dream was to play AFL, just like most Australians, because obviously it's the most popular sport in Australia, right? Or maybe cricket.
Depends who you ask, but I'll say yes.
Yeah, so obviously that was the dream. You played at a pretty high level through school, and then obviously things, took a turn for the worst, and then you went through the process of getting back to baseline. I know you did speak about this, and we had a chat about this a few weeks ago. And there was a point when obviously you were in the middle of, probably being in the mixer with the drugs and everything else, where you had an opportunity, potentially a trial, or you had an opportunity to play with a pretty good team, and there was some high level coaches there, and you maybe had opportunities to make your move to a decent team, but at that stage you were all over the place. And just talk to me a bit about that and how that went down, and sort of, do we have regrets on that?
Yeah, so there's no regrets, because I wouldn't do what I do now and I wouldn't change that, but there was a period, and it was just before I went to rehab. So I went to rehab in May 2016. And so post New Year's 2015, so like January to May 2016, I had this idea that football could save my life, and maybe it could have, but it couldn't. And so I was engaging with all these different coaches and people who'd mentored me and been a part of my football journey earlier on. And I remember there was this one coach from like a high development squad, and he was just messaging me. He's like, mate, like just get down. We'll take care of you. Get back here, come to training. And every single day, I remember they train like 4 times a week. I'd be like, yep, I'm coming. And then it would come to 4 p.m. and I'd be like, nah, I can't get there. And I did this for like 2 months. And what it was like, I knew inside myself, if I turned up, I'd just embarrass myself. Like I'd be playing with semi-professional athletes, and I'd be turning up and I wouldn't have slept for 7 days, 8 days, 9 days, 10 days. So there was no reason or place for me to be there, but I was holding on to this idea that I could get there and magically
turn it on,
be what I was 2 years prior. And that was just not going to happen. And so then literally like 3 weeks before I went to rehab, or 2 weeks, I went down to another training, and I hadn't slept in 5 days, hadn't eaten in a week pretty much. So I was like, it was probably not optimal performance that day. And I went to football training, and
the whoop recovery would have been minus 10.
There. I went to training, and I remember just being like, oh my God, this is so difficult. Why am I doing this? I don't even want to do this. And that was kind of like the last straw, where I was like, okay, football's not going to work, because I'd made this thing that if I got there, I'd just be all right. And like, I can't catch the ball, I can't mark the ball, can't kick the ball, can't pick it up, I can't run. Like the pretty important components to being a footballer, and just none of it worked. And I remember I left that training and just went, Jesus, like I'm in trouble here. And that would have been 2 weeks prior to going to rehab.
Do you think that was one of the things that helped you sort of decide, or knew that I need to do this? I don't really have anything else.
Not necessarily, because I thought my life was in danger. So I thought that my life was in danger, my family's life was in danger. I'd had my parents' cars written off, and there was a lot of threats. And I wasn't hanging around, the best people, and I wasn't making good decisions. So like things that occurred were repercussions of my actions. And I don't blame anyone for doing what they did. Like I would do the same because I was doing things that deserved a negative response. But a lot of that influenced, and then football, it's just that was a minor thing tied in with it all. It was just this big scenario where it's like, I give up.
Yeah.
I'm defeated.
And when did we first start running? And yeah, because obviously now you're a running coach, you run basically every single day.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big part of your life. And yeah, so talk to me, when did we start running? When did that become a thing?
Yeah, so pre-COVID, 2019, I was planning to go back to Oz and play football again. So I was trying to run a little bit more to get a little bit fitter. Always ran for football and always been fit, but included more running in my weekly schedule sometime in 2019, towards the back end. And then ramped it up a little bit moving into 2020, and then COVID happened. So I'm like, shit. So by this stage, I've never run a half marathon, and I've got a lot of time. So I thought, let's run a half marathon. And I went and ran one. I was like, wow, that sucked. But I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, let's run a marathon. And then there was no marathons because it was COVID. So I'm like, let's do the David Goggins 4:4:48. So I ran that. And I found it pretty easy, which was interesting. The only person who thought it would be easy for me was Nick. And everyone else was like, no, it's too much. Like, because this is like 2020. Not many people were doing these endurance challenges, and it wasn't common. Like right now it's a really big thing in social media and online, which is really good and it's really inspiring. But like in 2020, it wasn't as popular as then. And literally finished running for 48 hours every 4 hours and decided, let's run across Bali. And it's kind of just skyrocketed from then, from like 2019, running a little bit, to September 2020, running 84 kilometers across the island with like no idea what I'm doing, to be honest.
Sick. Love that. And obviously everyone's running these days. It's probably since COVID it started getting more and more, but nowadays run clubs are booming. Everyone's doing marathons, half marathons, 10Ks, park runs, high roxes, which is great, and obviously something that I've sort of transitioned more into since coming to Bali, because yeah, we've got football, we've got the AFL, but probably not as structured or as rigid as what we were probably used to in the past, with sort of the standard and sort of the level of training. So then obviously that has been a way for us to get more competitive. And then obviously one of the biggest things I found is that I don't like doing it, and again, it's challenging, and when you're on them runs and doing them hard sessions, it's that voice in your head that is telling you to stop, that is telling you, that's enough. So a big part of it is obviously the mental challenge and like doing stuff that you don't like to do, which is one of the reasons why I've leaned in on it a lot more. And then yeah, no one's coming to save you. Like, it's up to you to do the sessions, and even like in races, like I haven't done anywhere near as much as you, and a goal down the line for me is to do more. And we obviously have the Bali half penciled in at the end of August, which the prep hasn't been great for, but we'll run it. Obviously we done a good few 5Ks and 10Ks, which you were coaching me through, and we hit some decent times in the 5, but then obviously picked up injury. So, but yeah, that's one of the biggest reasons. It's the mental aspect of it. And how would you say that has carried over into other areas of your life? And yeah, why do you run? Like,
I mean, there's two parts to it. So the why, well, I enjoy it. That's the starting point. It's like, why is this recent marathon training block been probably my best? It's because it's been fun. And I think when I'm having fun, I train better. And fun doesn't mean easy. Fun means hard, but fun is just fun. And keeping it fun is really important, because if it's not, I'm not going to continue to do it. Like anyone I work with, it's let's keep this fun, because you want to be able to do this for 4, 5, 6 years. We don't want this to just be a 6-month fad where you do it, you hate it, you stop. So if we've got to find some enjoyment in it and make it a habit that can benefit me long term, which it has for me. And I suppose the main things is like, there's all the cliche things that gives me community in that, which is true, because I've got friends from all different run clubs, not only in Bali but Australia. I've got people that I talk to all around the world that all run, and we all inspire each other and talk with each other and pump each other up and hype each other up, which is just super fun. But then like on the day-to-day, it just gives me a little bit of structure. So I know that I get up at 5 and then I'm running by 6. And sometimes it's 20 minutes, sometimes it's 20 hours. But it creates a structure and a routine that seems to be good for me. And it's something that I can see progress over a period of time. So I can see that I'm better now than I was 6 months ago or 2 years ago. And like, honestly, nothing will be as difficult as that part of my day. So like, if I start my day with that, usually things are better throughout the day. Like, it's kind of simple, but nothing is usually as difficult as trying to run every single day at 6 a.m. or 5:30 or 4:30 or whatever time it is. It just makes life seem much easier.
Yeah, it's that saying, hard things, easy life, easy things, hard life.
Yeah.
And it's starting your day with a run, with a workout. And then no matter what comes up in work or stressful situations with friends, with family, it's probably not as much of a pain as being in running up a hill or being in an absolute mixer of a tempo session.
Yeah.
Gasping for air.
Honestly, but also I just love it. Like,
Yeah.
I love the process. Like, I love setting a goal that's really outlandish and doing what's required to achieve it. So whatever that might be, but setting something and just completing what's required to get to the end product. And I find it fun. Like, I feel like every day I'm just ticking a little box towards whatever my goal is, even if that goal is 6 months away or a year away or 5 years away. Like, I thrive in the whole process, and I think it's something probably ties into the drug addiction and that, however the brain structure works aligned with the substances. I think that the running taps into that, where it just gives me something to focus on, sort of obsess on, and just make it like, I just need to do this. It just has to happen.
It's that act of like delayed gratification and knowing that every single run you do or every piece of good food that you put in your body or part of recovery or good sleep is working towards the end goal, which at the minute is obviously the Gold Coast Marathon. But then obviously there is going to be plenty more to come after that. But yeah, that's what is so good, and one of the reasons why I do enjoy it a lot. It's difficult to progress. It takes time, and like even the differences in like a 5k time or a 10k time, like it can be very, very minor, but that can take months of work. And yeah, obviously like you said, starting your day at stupid o'clock in the morning out here with a run has been great, and with the community side of things. And I feel like we only really got pretty close when we did start running together. Obviously we had been at AFL and we'd been in the same sort of football team and been around each other, but then obviously running together and that sort of community aspect of it and doing some hard session together as well. But yeah, like you said, meeting people and the run clubs out here are quality for that. And it's as well with us, obviously probably spending a lot of time by ourselves during the day, and for me especially, working on the business and having that outlet in the morning where you do connect with other people, and then obviously combine that with the doing hard work and the exercise has been quality.
Yeah, and it's fun. Like, you do it with, the more you can do it with people, the more fun it is. There needs to be an element of doing it on your own and the struggle, and like, I'm all for that and I do that a lot, but like, if you can make it easier, make it easier. Like, it's easier to do it with people. You don't see the pro athletes in Kenya running on their own. Like, they always run in a group. That's just how it works. If you're running with people that are faster and slower than you and you train in a mature manner where you're not racing, like, you're gonna excel. If you're training on your own, it's not that you can't excel, but it just makes it more difficult. Like, it's harder.
Yeah, probably a few years ago as well, when you maybe just first started running, it was like, yeah, I'll just go out and run here for half an hour, I'll do a 5k, I'll do a 10k, whereas now your training is a lot more rigid, and just in general, like the amount of content that's being put out there on social media and the way running has advanced and the science-based aspect of training and nutrition, carb loading protocols, hydration protocols, it's a lot more advanced now. So like I said, it's that bit of a game where there's so many things to add up, and at the end of the day, when it comes to race day, again, there's so many variables on that day. How you slept, hydration, fueling, your taper, recovery, your warm-up, and then obviously how you race that day, if you've been to the toilet. So loads of things come into it, and obviously that's quite different to on some aspects with like a team sport. So if you were playing AFL, or I'd say a lot of people listening to this will be playing GA or will be GA athletes, and how would you compare the two? So being involved in an AFL team that's competing at a pretty high level and playing a game with a team, to then obviously now, yeah, you train with others, but it's individual.
Yeah, and I think, well, the problem with running is, right, that you put so much emphasis on one day, and a lot can go wrong on that one day. When you play in a football season, you've got 22 games a year. So like if you turn up to one game and you're sick, or you don't sleep right, or you don't hydrate right, or you're stressed, or whatever it is, you can minimise it and you can move on and you can perform the next week. Whereas I had this last year where I put so much emphasis on Gold Coast Marathon and I trained pretty well for it and I got in a pretty good space, and then I got sick 3 days prior. So I've trained 6 months for one day, and on this day I'm running when I shouldn't be running, and I've got a flu that is sending my heart rate through the roof, and I'm sweating and I'm just not well. So I think it's the highs of it are really exciting and really fun, but the lows of the loneliness of it can be really, really slow. And when you have the team around you, sometimes you can have people around you that pick you up and they sort of lift you through the day, whereas like when you're in a marathon, you can't hide, like you're on your own, and that's all it is. You can think about anything, but it's a pretty lonely place when you're not feeling right.
I suppose that's powerful as well, that it is all down to you. So it's that sort of element of, it's all the hard work that you've done, it's the preparation, so you're fully in control, and probably makes when you do, like say for example, when you did hit that sub 3, like even more rewarding, and that's self-fulfillment, because again it's been you ticking boxes day in day out for months and months and months. Whereas with a team sport, yeah, you have that element of success, and yeah, for anyone that doesn't know, like you're probably the best AFL player in Asia, you know, and probably have been for the past, like most competitions we play, you're getting player of the tournament and awards left, right and centre. So obviously you can play too, but it's quite different in that, yeah, that sort of team aspect. And like you said, one day you might not be fully involved in the game, or you might not have had a massive impact. The team wins, the team loses, it doesn't have that much of as an effect on you. But then in a race, like it's you're on your own.
Yeah, and it's sort of like what we started with at the start. You want to do everything that you can so that you give yourself the best opportunity when you arrive at race day to perform at an optimal level. That's all it is. It's like last time I went to a wedding a few days out, I shouldn't have done that. You know, my best friend was getting married, but like in hindsight, I could have put different protocols in to minimise the risk of falling unwell.
Yeah.
You know, and my taper wasn't. I've learned how to taper and not to taper based on last year. Whereas this year I won't be doing any of that stuff. It'll be like a monk wandering into a race, and I can enjoy myself after.
Shout out to Nick getting married, the selfish, a couple of days before the race.
It's not his fault. I could have just, instead of going to bed at late one night, I could have chose not to. You know, like little decisions that,
of course,
that in hindsight, you're like, why would you choose to do that? And you just have to be able to make a better decision next time to minimise the risk. Because if you're going to get sick, you're going to get sick. It happens. But did I minimise the chances of it happening? No.
Yeah,
not
you learn from your mistakes. But that's one thing that I found, and I feel like since I have started running more and more, say the last 6-7 months, potentially a bit longer, because obviously, yeah, for me, obviously big in the gym, play Gaelic, and obviously having moved here and spent most of my year here, there's no GA. There is AFL, although you know it's pretty on and off, and yeah, the season doesn't run that long, and you also don't get many games. So then obviously you have joined some of the run clubs and done a good bit of running with you and a couple of other operators, so that has been a big part of my life. And one thing that I've found that has brought is more structure, and I find that like my business, productivity, energy levels, mood have all benefited from that, because even just doing that hard thing first thing in the morning, but just the energy that you get back from it, and starting your day with that, it's a quality start to the day. And I feel like since being injured, since that's been taken away from me, like productivity and work's been down. And again, that's something that promoting the mental health side of things, and like you said earlier, and we'll just touch on that, is therapy has its place, and like both of us have probably done stints of that, and it's something that obviously works, but exercise, and that's probably the first protocol and should be for a lot of people. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's the... So if you look at like what are the common diagnoses around the world, we've got anxiety, generalized anxiety disorder, some form of a depression, and substance use. And counselling, psychology, fantastic. I think that they should be used, and they are really important, and I see one still, even to this day, once a fortnight. It's just something that I do. I like to think that if a counsellor can bring you up when you're feeling really, really bad, what can they do when you're feeling good? Like, they can build you up more. That's why they're there. Like, they're not there just to be when we're in the shit. Like, when we're feeling good, a counsellor can actually improve us tenfold.
Yeah, obviously I done a good bit of therapy, and I would touch base with mine once every month, once every 2 months, or just when I feel like I need it. And it's not for, like you said, when things have gone to shit or when you're particularly feeling a certain way. Like when I first started that, a few things were going on, and business was being pushed to a certain degree, and there was a few personal things going on as well. But even now, just to operate at a higher level, just to have a better mindset day to day, to have more energy, to be more confident, and just to be a better person. And so you can, have better relationships with other people, and I feel like it's a life hack, and most people should do it. Even if you shouldn't be waiting until a breakup, or you shouldn't be waiting until you're grieving someone dying in your family or whatever. I feel like a lot of people can't benefit from it, but again, it's that sort of stigma, isn't it, where you don't want to be seen to be doing it. And not that it's looked down on as such, but yeah, a lot of people wouldn't think of it, or think that it's only for the worst scenarios.
Yeah, and I think it's just really important that you partner it with some form of movement, because like, if you look at the symptoms of all the common diagnosis, like, exercise doesn't get rid of them, but it reduces the impact that they have on an individual. And it doesn't have to be much. It can be going to the gym, it can be going for a run, it could be as simple as walking 30 minutes every day. But there's all sorts of different studies that are able to link up the benefits of exercise with mental health. Like, it's just common knowledge.
Of course. And
it's there. Like, the studies are there now, and it's proven that if you do this, it will reduce this. And get medication, see professionals, that's great, but make sure that we partner it with some form of movement and community-based initiative, or whatever it is, in a support network, so that we're not just relying on a counsellor. Because what happens, right, is I see the counsellor once a week, so it's 1 hour out of 24 hours out of 7 days. So I'm only really managing something for that 1 hour, but every other hour I'm probably not going to be doing everything perfect that the counsellor suggests or what I talk about, and it just dissipates, and then the next week we pick it up again, and there's no consistency. So that's where we need to do the walking, the running, the movement, the talking, the feeling, all that stuff, whatever it might be that works for you, so that we can fill in maybe 7 hours a week of some therapy-based initiative, whatever it might be. But if we just do that one counselling session a week, it makes no progress. Yeah. It just doesn't.
And it's not even just the benefits, the mental benefits that exercise will have, it's the domino effect as well. And I speak a lot about this. Actually made a video about this recently, and again, obviously different scenarios, but the idea that if you do go for that walk or run first thing in the morning, like, the domino effect that will have, you're more likely then to probably eat better food, you'll have more energy, you're going to make, again, better choices with nutrition, you might hydrate that little bit more, you might have got sunlight because you were out in the morning, and again, the compound effects that will have, you might have got up early, so then you're going to go to bed that bit earlier because you have no other choice. So it's that domino effect of just like getting small habits in place, and like, if that is going for a walk, going for a run, getting that gym session done in the morning, eating something half decent, then again the ripple effect that has. And I feel like that's a big one, and something I preach to clients as well, that maybe are struggling with nailing down a routine or struggling to reach their goals with fitness or whatever, lifestyle, body composition. It's that you want to put habits in place that then have that ripple effect. And like I said, starting for you, going for a walk, going for a run, getting sunlight, it's things that help. And then you said the evidence behind that sort of thing now with getting sunlight, exercising for mental health, it's night and day. So it's obviously essential for everyone. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's just essential. Should be a non-negotiable.
And it's one of them things as well, where when you speak to someone and they don't train, or they don't, and you're just like, how? Like, I'd be going insane.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand it. I mean, I understand it because but like, at least just go for a walk. I mean, start with 5,000 steps a day.
Yeah.
Don't 10 might be a lot. Let's get a 10-minute walk every day.
Yeah.
Shoot for that. And then once you get 10, do it for a week. Go for 11. And then if we progress that, by the end of the year, you're going to be walking quite a lot. And you might realise I don't like walking. And you might go, let's do some Pilates instead. Or whatever it might be.
So, looking forward, we have the Gold Coast in 12 days or so. Then after that, what's the plans? What other things do we have in mind? What is the goal after that? And what big things do we have in the pipeline? Obviously, we've got the Lapathon, which, for anyone that doesn't know, has been running. Is this going to be the third year?
This will be the third year. Yeah, so the aim is to run a sub 250 marathon in Gold Coast in the first week of July and just tick it off and then recover. And then spend the next 6 weeks training to run for 24 hours. So at the end of September every year, I run 24 hours around a 290-metre soccer field. First year I ran 150 kilometres. Last year I ran 170 kilometres. And I'm still undecided exactly how far I want to go this year. But it'll be a minimum, I'll target a minimum 100 miles, which I think I could do in a fun manner, which is kind of ridiculous to say, but I feel like after doing 170, 160 sounds pretty reasonable, but we'll see. I'm not sure exactly on the distance. I'll figure that out after Gold Coast and just try and get through that, try and perform really well and have fun with it, because it's a completely different ball game than running a marathon, and then recover again with the main goal within the next 9 months. I want to try and run like a sub 240 marathon in Osaka in February in Japan. So it's like tick off 250, then run a really big ultra, recover, and then sort of set the goal towards 239 in Japan in February. That's what I'm working towards, I think.
Yeah, I'll join you for the Osaka Marathon. That's been in the calendar. Yeah, obviously exciting, and I feel like the Lapathon is a great initiative, and if you ask anyone, do you want to run around a field for 24 hours, like they'll probably go, fuck that. Oh, why do you do it? Obviously it's to promote mental health and shuffling strides in general, but what does that give you?
Look, I had an idea a couple of years ago. I said I want to run around a field for 24 hours. I didn't know what that meant, but it was an idea. And then it pretty much came to life in the space of 5 months, where I had the idea, I voiced it, and then we created an event where I ran around a soccer field that's only 290 metres per lap for 24 hours straight. And it was the first time I'd done anything of that extent. I trained pretty good for it, but I was so inexperienced at what will occur to your body over a 24-hour period of running, walking and suffering. So it was a really good experience, but it hurt quite a lot. And then moving on to the second edition of it, I was so much better. Like I recovered better, performed better, I had more fun, I was more present, I was more available to those around me. And again, like I had more fun, I was able to run further. So it wasn't such a punish. The first year was like, geez, this is rough. Whereas the second year was rough. Like there's no easy feat of running for 24 hours straight, but just being able to do it and having fun, and then obviously having it raise money that is then able to benefit others is the byproduct. So like first of all, I get to do my thing, I get to test myself, challenge myself, but then as a byproduct, raise money that can help others.
Two birds, one stone.
Yeah, it's just, it taps into something in my brain that, again, I really enjoy, but also, we raised $70,000 last year. So it's like, you can do a lot of good with 70 grand, and I can have a lot of fun running for 24 hours. So it kind of ticks off both of them.
Yeah. I'll join you for a few Ks, although I don't know how many that'll be. But yeah, we should organise some other challenges, runs across the country, and trail races, things like that, where we could document it and show how we're preparing for it, how we are getting through it nutrition wise. I feel like that'll be pretty cool, and we should try and plan something like that. Again, that'll kill two birds with one stone, and then also it'll be good content and something to look back on. Then it's a challenge, it's something to work towards, outside of the races, something different. So we should chat about that and see what we could come up with.
Yeah, I mean, the goal's always been to run around Bali, which, look, I don't think it would be that difficult anymore. Like when we initially announced it, I think it would be really challenging. I don't think now it would be as challenging as them, but there's lots of different multi-stage ultra running adventures that you can do. I have a friend right now, Sean, who's on day 107 of running 84 kilometres a day around Australia. So he started in Melbourne, he's done the whole East Coast, 84 kilometres a day, all across the top of Australia and back down.
Yeah, that's sick.
So it's like, when people think, oh, I can't do this, it's like, well, you can, because, I mean, look at this guy. Like, he's no better than me or you or anyone, but he has a determination and an ability to do what's required so that he can perform how he is. And he's running 84 kilometres every single day, trying to set the record to run, what is it, like 12 or 14,000 kilometres around Australia.
Sick.
It's ridiculous. But I can understand that it's possible. And then it's like, well, if he can do that, what else can any of us do?
Yeah.
Like, there's no limit. Like, there's really not. Like, if you think about it, waking up every single day running for 11 to 13 hours, 84.4-ish kilometres. Sounds ridiculous, but then you watch him do it and it's like, well, if he's doing that, then what else can we do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should get the pen and paper out.
I know.
See what we could do.
It's nuts. Because there's so many possibilities. I mean, you could run across Indonesia, you could run across Australia, you could run... I mean, there's endless possibilities. You put a point to a point, you can do it on foot.
Obviously, with running now, like every granny's running, and it's getting bigger and bigger. If there's someone out there that wants to get into running and probably has tried a few times, but it's that sort of, I hate it, I can't do it, I'm out of breath after running for 5 minutes, what advice would you give them? And if obviously a client came to you and they had that same problem where they're wanting to make it a big part of their life, but they just can't get over that initial resistance, like what would you tell them?
The body doesn't know if we're running or walking. So if you get tired running, start walking. Like, it's really that simple. If the heart rate gets too high or the level of effort gets too high when we're running, then we can introduce a run walk. So it might be run for 3 minutes, walk for 2 minutes. And then it might be run for 4 minutes, walk for 1 minute. Then it might be run for 5 minutes, walk for 1 minute. And we can just progress over whether it's a week, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, where we go from walk run to less walk, more run to run. And understanding that a lot of people walk when they run. A lot of people stop, they pause their watch. A lot of people take a drink, they go to the bathroom. That's okay. So it doesn't have to be this real competitive numbers-based action. Like, walk running is actually really useful, and a lot of people have to do it to start their running journey just because running is difficult, and if I try and run, I can only do it for a certain period of time. So normalising that as like a starting point.
Stay off Strava, don't be comparing yourself to others.
Literally.
Strava's runs.
Like, it doesn't matter. If you need to walk and then run, it's fine. If you need to run really slow, it's fine. It really doesn't matter. The only people that care about it is ourselves. Like, no one looks at it and goes, wow, he's so slow. And if they do, who cares? But the only people that actually care about the actual numbers is usually yourself. No one else is that interested.
Yeah. And just focus on improving. Like, you've only got yourself to compete with, and it's like it's a slow process. So understanding that, like, I think I got a memory on my screenshots or on my phone the other day, and it was a run that I had done a year ago. And this is when I was first starting to do any sort of, not long distance running, but just longer than, like, I wouldn't have done any running. It would have just been tempo based sessions or like pit sessions where you obviously do a lot of running in that, but it's more high speed, it's maybe more tempo work. But I'd always hated the fact of, or hated the idea of going for like a 5k or like a longer run where you're going at the same pace, where it's pretty slow and you feel like time is moving very, very slow and you're obviously getting out of breath. And that was one of the biggest things that I struggled to get over at the start. It was going on runs like that. I just didn't enjoy it. So I done more like tempo based workouts, and then I was doing like 400s, 800s interval work where it's that bit more structured, where you have timed rest periods. I found that to be more enjoyable, but obviously you need to have the other side of it where you are running in zone 2 and getting to a point where you're going and enjoying them. And I feel like that benefited my running performance and fitness in general massively. So yeah, like everyone's talking about zone 2 running, and it's trying to get to a point where you do enjoy them runs and taking it as easy as you need to. Like, it doesn't, like you said, walk running, that works. Yeah,
and understanding that easy running is just important. If you run hard every time, you'll get injured. I mean, it's just if you run, I run hard maximum 2 hours a week. 99% of my running is, I probably do too much easy running almost, but understanding the benefits of running at an easy pace, keeping easier than we think we need to keep it, because a lot of easy running actually isn't easy. Where can I hold a conversation like we are right now while I'm running? If the answer is yes, then I'm probably running easy enough. If the answer is no, I'm probably running too fast. And again, the only person who really cares about that is myself when I look at the number on an app or on my phone or etc. And running hard is good, but minimizing how much. Like, make it 20% max. Because if I do it all the time, I'm going to get injured.
Yeah.
just what happens.
Join the club.
Yeah. Like, if I
that was the story of mine. It was just too much volume too soon, too much trying to keep up with the big boys, trying to keep up with yous, and then again on the recovering, and I was doubling up that with like gym sessions on top of it, thinking that I'm invincible, and then next thing you know, you've got a tendon issue. So slow increases in, what were you saying, like 10% increases in volume weekly maximum. Like, if you are pushing them sort of distances.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to play it safe, like the 10% rule is a really good base. You do 10% increase per week, and then you reduce every fourth week on a deload. So like that's a good basic structure that anyone can follow. So if I'm running 40, then I'm going to increase by 10% to, up a little bit, then a little bit more, then a little bit more, and then I'm going to reduce. And that just allows the body time to recover. And actually understanding that when I do a deload every 4, 3, 5 weeks, depending where I'm at, I'm actually benefiting myself and I'm not going to lose my fitness. But understanding that takes a little bit of time and just trust in the process, because I think that if I'm not running at the same intensity every week, I'm regressing in my performance, and then I'm losing my fitness, which isn't true. I'm just putting more stress on my body.
How do you get over that block? Because I would say a lot of people listening to this will struggle with that, and me and you both as well, when you do have to take a step back, or when you do have to take an additional rest day here and there, or like you said, when you do have to taper your volume. Like for us, it's that feeling of you're not training hard enough, or you're taking the foot off the gas, you're losing progress, and you need to be doing something. And especially with us having that sort of regimented routine where it's a massive part of our life, and when we have to maybe take more days off or reduce volume, how do you deal with that mentally?
I don't want to get injured anymore, so you have a couple of long-term injuries. You just understand that if I do this, I will minimise the chance of this happening. So I've been injured before for 6 months, like 2020, 2021. I understand now that I don't want to fall back into that again. So just when something comes up, if I take a day or two off, again, the only person who cares about my Strava graph and how big it is or low it is me. And if I take 2 days off or 1 day off, I'm going to progress more than if I don't. Which is what happened last week. I took 2 full days off, which was fine. There was a moment where I'm like, oh, should I do this? And it's like, no, there's nothing to gain.
That's how this injury spiraled. I didn't want to miss a session, and I was in such a good place. Fitness was really good. I was peaking. I wanted to keep things going. I had FOMO of not completing the sessions that you were doing and missing out on that. So then I didn't listen to the body, and obviously it has detrimental effects. But yeah, obviously the mental side of things there is a challenge, but it's realising, like you said, is downtime is uptime, and it's you can only train as hard as you recover.
Yeah, I think I've been doing this since 2020, so it's 4 coming on 5 years, and I want to do it for another 5 years. So like the bigger picture thing of, if I take a day off today, I'm not going to care about this day off in a few years' time. It really doesn't matter. And especially this close to like a race, it has no benefit to me other than in my brain if I run or if I don't. But physically, I could cause more harm.
Yeah, and it's for me, I'm just like, right, I'll take myself out on a walk, listen to a podcast, and find something else that'll entertain me during that time as well. And being able to accept that is key, especially with the gym stuff as well, where that'll hold people back if they aren't taking enough rest days. So making sure that they are penciled in. So.
And that's not saying that I'll push it, because I've taken probably 4 rest days off in the last 6 months. Yeah. But it's understanding the fine, it's like understanding the real fine line between when to and when not to, and just being able to intuitively know this is a time not to push it. So I've probably taken yesterday, 2 last week. There's probably been 6 rest days in last 6 months. But that's really important that on those actual days I didn't push it. Whereas the fine line of understanding when to and when not to push.
Yeah, and you've obviously built that up for years. Do you know what I mean? Your body's capable of doing that, but for a lot of people, they'll need more than that.
Yeah, absolutely. You need minimum a few days a week.
And you'd be big into, obviously, you're getting weekly massages, you're doubling down on your sleep, you're looking after your nutrition. Yeah, like I said, we chatted about at the start, you're living like a professional athlete, so you have more capacity as well there. So it's, some people will have to take a bit of a closer eye. But
pretty much. So if I tried to do what I'm doing now 4 years ago, it's not going to work. So there's been a volume build of 4 years to where we are now, to be able to manage, understand what can, what can't. Like if someone's just starting, it's keep it simple. Nice. It might be twice a week. It might be 3 times a week.
Yep.
Whatever works for you. Find out. Trial and error.
And one thing that made a massive difference for me, and it's running with friends or joining a run club, it makes it so much easier. It's that accountability as well, where if you say to yourself, I'm going to go for a run in the morning, and it's very easy to just snooze the alarm, whereas if you've told 4 other people or a group that you're going to be there, it's you're basically forced to it. And then, like you said, when you are there, it's that bit easier, because again, it's the community aspect. So join a run club, start easy, enjoy your slower runs. Don't be, again, it's normal to go slow, and if you need to walk. and enjoy it. Because what's the point in dreading every single run you do? And don't do it on a treadmill as well. I found when I did start trying to ramp up the run, I was doing a lot of treadmill runs, which was depressing. Get outside, get out, fresh air. Get outside, get fresh air.
Yeah.
Although we do like the treadmill for tempo sessions.
Yeah, but not to start.
Yeah, not
Let's
to start.
Find an enjoyment first before we
But,
put on the treadmill.
Yeah, I suppose it's easy for us to say when the weather's great here all year round compared to other people probably listening to this in Ireland when it's pissing rain half the time. Get out, get a good raincoat. What finally, just if you wanted to give one piece of advice or one game-changing tip for someone that is a pretty decent runner who would run 3-4 times a week but wants to get that next level, so say they want to hit a sub 18 5k, they want to hit a sub 3, like what has made the biggest difference for you getting that next level from where you were probably a year or two ago to now?
Probably asking questions. So I studied with Athletics Australia to become an online running coach and getting the qualifications. And it doesn't mean you need to have a coach, but asking questions to people who are better than you, what they did, how they train, what they do, what they did to progress. That's how you get better. Like whether it's through having an actual coach, that's one avenue, but being able to ask people who've done what you're trying to do, what did you do, how did you train, and taking in knowledge and information from them, and picking what you like and leaving the rest. That's as simple as it is. Because what I suppose me and many others will do is we'll just try and force our way towards a certain goal where there's lots of information and people around that we can ask questions. Hey, you ran a sub 17 5k, how did you do it? Hey, you ran a half marathon in under 2 hours, what did you do? What didn't you do? And just taking in that information and utilising it and not trying to do it yourself.
I fucking love that, mate. It's surround yourself with other people who are stronger runners than you and who are smarter than you with nutrition and who maybe live a more dialed-in lifestyle, who prioritise their sleep a bit more, and like you said, just taking the bits and pieces from everyone. But that's, I love that point, and I think that's a great point to finish on, is like surround yourself with other people who are ahead of you, because you essentially skip past the mistakes and the ability to project yourself forward, and what hasn't worked in the past isn't going to continue, isn't going to work. So it's like change your approach, fresh ideas. But I love that. That's one of the reasons why I'm friends with you, mate. That's why I can sponge off. And even some of the lads who we would do a good bit of running with, and like the track sessions that we would do, it's like they propelled me forward and probably pushed me to them limits, because training by yourself, you can reach certain levels, but again, it's that sort of competitiveness when you're running with other people. It pushes you on that bit more. So I love that bit, mate. Love the yarn. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Hopefully people have got some good takeaways there. I think we chatted all things, a few bits and pieces on mental health, a lot to do with running, your journey, which is inspiring, mate. And it's unreal to see what you're doing now, and I'm looking forward to following along in just under 2 weeks' time.
2 weeks.
See how you get on at Gold Coast. But I'm looking forward to getting back running with you as well, mate, because it has been frustrating the last while with this calf, although we're back in green now, and hopefully after Gold Coast you're going to be taking a bit of a recovery, but you'll still be doing plenty of runs, so I'll be joining you for some, and then we can get back into the track and work it towards the Valley Half. But mate, love the yarn, and good luck in Gold Coast.
Thank you. I look forward to it.